and talk about your experience with it. Well, it could be the villain, and maybe Hope was the hero, or maybe somebody in your family was the hero because of what they did for somebody else in need. But unconsciously, we want to have things that we can cheer and things that we can throw rocks at. And so you want to build something into your story that people can throw rocks at, whether it's, cancer, COVID-19, or a person, or a villain, like an actual villain person. And then you want to have something they can cheer for, which could be hope, or could be solution, or what have you. So that's number 2. And then number 3, I would say keep things in threes. Psychologically, we've learned comics have known this forever, but people listen and learn best in threes. When you go beyond 3, they stop paying attention. So I said 3 acts. You notice I gave 3. I'm giving 3 strategies here. So stick with threes. I had a guy on my show one time, and I asked him if he could give us some strategies, and he said, yes, I'll give you 3. And he said, do you know why I say 3? And I said, no. And he said, because there's only 4 numbers in the world: 1, 2, 3, and far too many. And what he said was, once you get beyond 3, people stop listening. So practice the rule of 3. Those are 3 things I would tell people to start. If you started those 3 things and got a handle on those right away, you would already be ahead of probably 80% of the speakers out there in the world today.
I love it. And I noted that you gave us 3. So that's, you followed that. And I've always loved the number 3. You know what, as you think about it, your brain does work well with the 3. So I love all those ideas. I love the hero and the villain. So tell me, this TEDx thing. So tell us a little bit about that, because you've been a multiple TEDx speaker, and let us know how that went and why is it such a big thing?
So I guess I'll start with the second part first. Why is it such a big thing? I actually feel the reason TEDx is so popular and considered so prestigious is because it's still, even after all this time, and even though there's now thousands of TEDx events in the world, it's still hard to get on that stage. There's not, and there are other hard stages, but it's a really hard stage to get on. And there's a lot of variables to getting on that stage. And because there's such a, I'm going to call it roadblock or wall in front of you getting that talk, it makes it more prestigious. Because again, even though there's thousands of talks now, which means there's thousands of TEDx speakers, there's still 5 to 10 or 20 times that who want to get the talk and try for years and never land it.
Right.
And so I think that's the reason it's still a big deal, is because it's still considered prestigious. And then the second reason, of course, is because people know about it. So there's whenever I say, or I'll put it this way, whenever people say that I'm a multiple-time TEDx speaker, whenever they're reading my bio, I watch the heads turn toward me at that point. So it's the words TEDx that make them go, TED Talk or TED speaker, TEDx speaker. That thing is the thing that makes them, that pulls them in.
Yeah, it gives you credibility right away. Yeah.
100%. Yeah, so that's why I'd say it's so popular. And I would say for people that want to land a TEDx stage, the thing you have to remember, which so many people don't get and forget, is that you are dealing with people. So in other words, you have organizers of the event that are considering whether to hire you and bring you in. And I say hire you, they don't pay. No, they don't pay any TEDx speakers, but still bringing you in to speak at the event. They're considering you, and they're people sitting around a table. And most people forget that. So what they do is they jump on a TEDx.com website, or I should say a TEDx regional website. They submit their application, press send, and hope for the best. And there's a couple things that happen there. If they don't understand the TEDx structure, there's a good chance one of those questions is going to basically disqualify them right away, the way they answer the question, because they just don't know what the organizer's looking for. And secondly, the organizers don't know who you are. So how do you stand out? If they have 2,000 applicants at TEDx New York, how do you stand out when they're only looking at 10 speakers? And so the hint I'll give people is you need to get on the radar. So you need to find out who the organizer is, and you need to find a way to be a person they know when they're sitting there talking about the different people that have submitted their applications.
So is that what you did? How did you land your stages, your TEDx stages?
So I actually practiced some different strategies, which is whenever I launched our TEDx program to help people do the same thing, basically I built it around what I learned during the process of landing mine. And then essentially I reverse engineered what I'd learned. So one of those things, and it was one of the big parts, is this idea of getting on the organizer's radar. So, there's definitely creative ways that we've learned for how to actually find the organizer, because sometimes it's not just as simple as going on the website. There's a lot of times it's very hidden who the organizers are, but finding those organizers. And then when I say getting on the radar, think about the different ways you could do that. It could be social media. You jump onto Facebook, you find that organizer, and all of a sudden you start connecting with that person, and they get to know you as a person rather than a name on a piece of paper that floats across their desk. So I started realizing that at the end of the day, it comes down to people and people, not like I say, just a thing that comes across via email. And I started visualizing what it'd be like if you're looking at 2,000 applicants. I mean, the things are going to start running together, obviously. And so your names are going to start running together, and the talks are going to start running together, and they're going to start sounding the same. But imagine if you're one of only 5 people who they know personally as they're looking through this. And then they go, Lorraine, she applied. It's funny you mentioned bring her up because I'm a friend with her on Facebook, and she likes my stuff all the time.
Right.
Going here. That's one tiny little thing, but that one tiny little thing, I would say if you do that right, and there's a whole system behind it and process, but if you do that right, that will bring you up from a chance of 1 in 10%, and I can back up those numbers. Your odds are less than 1% to as high as only 10 if you follow the normal system of just jumping on and applying. I believe it will bring you up probably to about 50 to 55%.
Wow.
Just like that one strategy.
Wow, that's amazing. Now, one question is, what do you wish you had known earlier on in your speaking career? What's one piece of advice that you can give people before they become a speaker that you wish you had known, Corey?
So I feel that the thing that I would have done sooner had I known better, I'll say it that way, is I had this, and again, it's hard to explain in an interview, but I'll do my best in a 1 minute time frame. But I have an evaluation form that I use now, and it's a print it out, fill it out by hand evaluation form, not what people would think. People would think now that I'd be pushing for send an evaluation form digitally. But what I've experienced is when people are left to their own devices after they get back from the event that they saw you at, the odds of them sending it back in go down to like 5%. It's really And so if you can get it filled out, your evaluation form filled out while you're there on site, your odds, I mean, if you structure it right, and one thing I do, for example, is I'll say, hey, do you want to get a free copy of my digital book? Well, make sure to put that on the evaluation form after you fill it out in your email address, and we'll send it. So then they have a vested interest in why they'd want to fill it out. But my odds of getting them back are about 85, 90%. Why this evaluation form is important is I bring it with me. I organize it with the organizer beforehand because they don't like you surprising them with that. And 95% of the time, they'll say, no problem. I bring my evaluation form, I hand it out. But on that evaluation form, one of the questions is, do you know of others who could benefit from a similar presentation to the one Corey delivered today? And can we contact you to follow up? And so that one thing is the thing that I wish I would have thought of, i.e. known earlier in my speaking career, because it ended up resulting in upwards of 30% of my bookings in the last 18 months. Yeah. And so you can probably see why that works, but essentially what it is the person just seen you speak live. They may not be comfortable going up and approaching a speaker. They may see a line in front of you and say, I'll get you later, and then won't. They may not realize that you're a speaker for hire. And this one question leaves it in your hands to follow up with them. But now you know this is a potential client.
Right. So that's
what I would have known earlier is the way to get people to hire you is to reach out to them when they just saw you speak.
Right. I love that idea. So, Corey, this is hard to believe, but we're almost out of time. So I want you to let our audience know how they can contact you. And the great news is that Corey is coming back next week, and we're going to talk about the power of why. But for today, can you tell us how the audience can get a hold of you and if you have a free gift to offer them? Thank you, Corey.
Yeah, my pleasure. And I'll put in the second one first. So I do have a free gift, and it's actually related to speaking. Surprise, surprise. It's called the Book of Public Speaking, and it'll be easy to remember how to go get it. It's thebookofpublicspeaking.com. I like easy websites. So if you go to thebookofpublicspeaking.com, you'll get a free digital copy of my book called The Book of Public Speaking. It's a best-selling book, full-size book. That's one, that's if you want to grab that free gift. If you want to reach out to me to connect with me further, if you go to thatspeakerguy.com, all my stuff is there. My TED Talks, everything's there.
I love that. Thatspeakerguy.com.
Yeah.
So I want to thank you for being here today, Corey, and I'm so glad you're going to be here next week, like I said. And I have one question in closing. What do you believe is the single most important character quality that produces resilience?
Wow. I feel I'll put it this way, building the muscle of your mindset. I mean, that's a whole, that would be a whole interview on its own. But what I would say is the more ability that you have to build your own mindset in a positive way, that's how you build resilience.
I absolutely agree with you. That's wonderful. Well, thank you for coming in today, Corey. It's been amazing. And next week we will be talking about the power of why. Remember out there, it is never too late. It's never too late to lose weight. It is never too late to start sharing your story on stages. It is never too late to build a muscle of mindset, like Corey said. So it is never too late. We will see you back here next week with Corey. Thank you, Corey, and thank you, audience, for being here.
Thank you so much. My pleasure.